I know you're heavily into this intermittent hypoxic training. I believe it's called the Wim Hof Method. Talk to me about this, and how did it come about, and how are you now kind of coaching and teaching this? How do we relate it to swimming?
Yeah, well, I touched on earlier that I was an asthmatic, and you're an asthmatic. A lot of people get sent swimming training when they're asthmatics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew early on I had this connection with the breath and how I feel and perform. And then, so I always had to swim, and I'm grateful for that. It gave me a job and a career. But when you swim, you breathe through the mouth. And that's not really ideal in a functional breathing sense, although you can't swim and breathe through the nose. But we did hypoxic training as kids. So I knew that helped my fitness. So I just had this connection. I ended up doing yoga, and I found I could regulate my breathing through yoga without going swimming training. Because once I stopped swimming training, I literally used to struggle to run around the block. Whereas where I'm swimming training, I could run 10Ks quite easy, or 10 miles even.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting a little bit older now, so running 10 miles is not my favorite thing to do. But yeah, so it was discovering yoga and regulating the breath through yoga. And then Wim Hof's a yogi, and then I started doing this technique. So he's a bit of a crazy Dutchman. He's in his 60s now, and he's broken 25 world records. And so what he's famous for is he can influence the body on a greater level than what other people can do. So he broke a world record where he's in an ice bath for 2 hours. So he can thermoregulate or control his body's temperatures, where he can survive that sort of stress, basically.
Wow.
What really put him on the map is in 2011, they injected him with an endotoxin, and he was able to use his method of breathing, which is a superventilation method, to influence his immune system and basically not get sick. So when they inject people with the flu, they get a headache, they get a temperature, they suffer from it. When they injected him with it, he did his technique, and he really minimized any of that damage. So it proved that he was one of the first ones to prove that he could influence his immune system, and that made him quite famous.
Wow. That's incredible.
So when
That's
I started
insane.
practicing the Wim Hof method, I didn't get sick, or I got sick less. So it's a winner. So it's combined the breathing technique with going in the cold.
So how long does it take you to learn this method and kind of master it in a way?
Yeah, so the beauty about Wim Hof's method is it's super simple. You're just breathing in and out quite deeply, and you superventilate, which is controlled hyperventilation, and you blow out a lot of carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is actually what gives us the inclination to breathe. So people, and it changes the blood flow to the brain. It feels really nice. And so people get sort of, I guess, proud of themselves that they can hold their breath for a period of time. But this superventilation, this intense breathing causes a little bit of stress on the body. And then when you hold your breath, you actually go into the rest and digest, the relaxation response, and you just sort of hold your breath and you bliss out. So people that struggle with stress, taking them in and out of these two responses, anecdotally seems to be really good for helping them deal with their own stress in modern day life, because so much of our modern day life, we're in that fight or flight response. We're stressed, we're anxious, and we're just getting stuck there. So the Wim Hof method seems to take people in and out of a stress response and helps them deal with stress better, from what my best understanding or description of it.
Yeah, that's very cool. So I'm into high performance swimming, Olympic swimming, that type of level of swimming and performance. So how could we best utilize this as Olympic athletes? What do you think the benefits of this could be for them?
Yeah, so I love Wim Hof, but that's sort of led me into studying functional breathing as well.
Okay.
Which is just as important. The Wim Hof method just gives you energy. There's some autoimmune benefits. Okay. I'll send you through some bits and pieces, but basically when we breathe through the nose, it filters the air. So which makes it ideal for our lungs. So, you know, coronavirus topical at the moment. Don't want to get too far into it, but someone with the flu, if we're next to them and we're breathing in through the mouth, the bacteria or the toxins are going to go into our body and into our lungs, and we're more likely to get sick. Whereas if we breathe through the mouth, if we breathe through the nose, there's little hairs in our nose called cilia, and they filter the air. There's something else released in the nose called nitric oxide, nasal nitric oxide, and that's a vasodilator. So that opens up our airways and our blood vessels. And it's also a natural antiseptic. So if we breathe in through the nose more, we're less likely to get sick. If we breathe in through the nose more, we're more likely to sleep better at night. It helps recovery. It helps the way we utilize fat as a fuel source. So it's more likely to keep us in a more aerobic system as opposed to getting us in an anaerobic response. And yeah, the way we breathe is very much linked to our nervous system. So, you know, your athletes, you would want to get them as calm as possible. So some slow nasal breathing at night may help them get to sleep better. They sleep better, they recover better, they get up, they train harder the next day. Love it, mate. That's awesome. Geez. Well, for someone that wasn't very good in school, you just explained that very well, mate, like you're an expert in, and I'm sold. I'm into it. But what about in terms of what they talk about in terms of breathing from the chest or the stomach or the diaphragm? Talk to me about those different areas. Yeah, I've got one for you right now. You take a big breath in through your mouth. Take a huge breath in through your mouth. Okay. All right, now take a big breath in through your nose. Totally different. So I took the mouth from here and the nose from the stomach. Yeah. So when we breathe through the nose, it innervates the diaphragm. So there's nerves that connect breathing through the nose and the diaphragm. And the exchange of oxygen and CO2 happens in the lower lobes of the lungs. So there's more blood lower down here than there is up here. And as you just described, breathing through the mouth takes you up to there. Wow. So basically you're trying to retrain yourself to get away from short breath, breathing through the mouth and chest to longer, prolonged breathing through the nose and stomach or diaphragm, right? Yeah, absolutely. There's something called the Bohr effect, and that was discovered in 1903 or 1904. And it's got to do with the relationship between oxygen and CO2 in the blood. And when we breathe quickly and through the mouth, we actually get more oxygen in. And this is not necessarily always a good thing. When we breathe through the nose, we get a little bit less oxygen in, but it improves the uptake of oxygen in the blood because there's more CO2 present. So we need CO2 present in the blood for that exchange of gases to occur. And it does get quite complex, but what it basically means is too much breathing is not necessarily your friend. So less is more. So we breathe in 21% oxygen and we breathe out 16% oxygen. So we don't need heaps and heaps of oxygen. We need to utilize it better in the body. And having CO2 present in the blood helps us do that. So if an athlete can improve their body's ability to tolerate CO2, their fitness will improve. So I've been working with people on this at a performance level, and the results have been really impressive.